Welcome to the Iyun podcast, an in-depth look at Haredi society, Israel, and the Jewish people. I am your host, Ari Koretsky, and I invite you to join us as we confront the challenges, joys, and possibilities of Torah-centered living in an evolving world. The Iyun podcast. Think again. Welcome back. When I originally sat down this past winter with Eli Paley at the Haredi Institute for Public Affairs, HIPA, headquarters in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem. It is also, incidentally, the headquarters of Mishpacha magazine, of which Eli Paley is the publisher. When we sat together at that time, I did not anticipate that I would include this episode in our ongoing series about Chareidim and army service. I assumed this would be a standalone episode, separate topic, somewhat unrelated. And as I keep promising, there will be other episodes unrelated to army service, hopefully many in the future. However, recently, I've come to realize that actually these two questions, that of Haredi identity vis-a-vis Israeliness and the idea of army service, are in fact inextricably linked. I'd like to read from an article very recently published on the Iyun journal by Iyun founder Rabbi Yehoshua Pfeffer. The article reads as follows. To tell the truth, there is one uncomplicated reason why Haredi boys don't serve in the army. We don't serve because we are Haredi. It's really as simple as that. All the rest, the voluminous and generally unpersuasive apologetics printed and published in pamphlets and magazines, are commentary, footnotes to the equation Haredi does not equal Israeli, whose inescapable outcome is that Charedim do not serve in the IDF. And so, Eli Paley, who's become an expert on Haredi demography and sociological trends, is very well positioned to comment. Do Haredim in fact see themselves as Israeli? As that response becomes more affirmative, or if it becomes more affirmative over time, the hostility towards army service is likely to decrease. The participation or openness to the possibility of participation increase. Of course, we also need to understand if and how this reality has changed since October 7th. To what degree do Charedim identify with the body politic of Greater Israel following the calamitous events of that Shabbos, Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah massacre? And so this conversation belongs squarely in our ongoing series about Charedim and army service, and no one more qualified than Haredi Institute for Public Affairs director, as well as Mishpacha magazine publisher, Eli Paley. We are back here on the Iyun podcast, and I'm here with Rabbi Eli Paley, the publisher of Mishpacha magazine, but more to the point for our particular purposes, the founder and director of the Haredi Institute for Public Affairs, HIPA, not the HIPA in the U.S. when it comes to medical records, but HIPA when it comes to Israeli Haredi society. And it's really an amazing, amazing think tank and policy outfit, which has tremendous potential to impact the conversation here in Israel. And actually, Rabbi Eli and I once did a full-length interview. You may remember this. There was more about his whole life story. I got to sit in his home in Ramot in Yerushalayim. This is about 4 or 5 years ago already. But now we're here to talk about something more specific and more directly connected to our particular topic. So first of all, Rabbi Eli, how are you?
Thank you. Shalom Aleichem. Happy to meet you again.
Wonderful to see you and to have you here. And thank you for actually hosting me. We're doing this live from the Mishpacha and the Haredi Institute for Public Affairs podcast studio, a beautiful recording space. So tell us first a little bit about just your general background and how you ended up in a place where you were so interested in the issues of the Haredi population vis-a-vis Israeli society.
Okay, so hi. My name is Eli. I was born here in Yerushalayim 59 years ago. Our family roots are coming from the Hebron Yeshiva. My grandfather and my great-grandfather in 1924, 1925 came from Russia, from Slobodka, to establish the Yeshiva Knesset Yisrael in the city of Hebron. and they were there till 1929.
Massacre.
Till the massacre. Our family survived, and then my family was very connected to the Hebron Yeshiva. My youngest son is now learning in the yeshiva. He's the 4th or the 5th generation in the yeshiva. So I'm alumni of the Hebron Yeshiva. My grandfather was also very much involved. He was one of the founders of Oil Torah, was the first big kollel here in Yerushalayim that Rabbi Yoshiv and Rav Wozner and many other Gedolim learned there. It was established by the father-in-law of Rabbi Herzog, Rabbi Shmuel Hillman. So I'm coming from a family that was very active. My father was a big asker, and he established, by the way, the American Peilim together with Rabbi Yeshvei, running Greenwald, and many others back in the early 60s, 70s. So I grew up in a family that was very much involved. In the past 3 decades and more, I am in the publishing business. I went together with my father by early 90. He bought a small publication, a monthly publication, which became later today a huge international publication. And over my years in Mishpacha, we saw Mishpacha, the Hebrew, and later the English. This year we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the English. We started Pesach 2004. We saw it much more than a business. Mishpacha became part of fulfilling the mission of the family that I grew up, which was a family oriented to help Klal Yisrael, Skonus. My father, in the early 50s, 60s, was in the Peilim, running in the camps of the Olim Chadashim, the new immigrant who came from the East, Morocco and Yemen, and was helping to rescue kids to bring them to yeshivas. And later he was the founder of the Har Nof neighborhood and was involved in many things in the Haredi society. And when my father passed away 11 years ago, I decided that I want to continue his vision in my own way. I'm always saying that it's different than the way that my father was operating. It was like a one-man show, brilliant, gave his all heart and whatever he can do to help people. I doing it more in a methodological way, which we will speak about it later. And I started a family foundation, or a Paley Family Foundation, and this is what I'm doing mainly in the past 10 years. I'm focusing mainly on the challenges and opportunities of the Haredi society in Israel, mainly on the focus of the topic that you mentioned. How can we take the unique, very special and unique society of Torah and Jewish values, and to bring this voice to the public discourse, to the Jewish peoplehood. And this is my main focus in the last 10 years.
I think it's really important to note that you come from this family that's deeply entrenched in the Haredi world, because, first of all, that gives you a real insider's understanding. You're not coming, to try to understand a foreign society, but you've been living it for all, 59 years so far, and on Me'av Esrim. And more than that, you have the credibility and the trust of people to be able to perhaps, suggest solutions and to be kind of part of the conversation rather than seen as someone who is looking to make reform in a community that can be very conservative and suspicious even. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, when did you start to notice, along your own journey, challenges in the Haredi world in general? Of course, everybody understands that there's, the challenges in whatever society they live in. But at what point did you start to really think about, okay, there are some significant issues here in this community that I live in and that I love, but challenges that I'm uniquely perhaps suited to try to do something about? Like, what was the first thing that really bothered you, and when was it?
Well, the first bothered me, it's my personal story, which I'll tell you. I spoke about it by Yaakov Langer podcast also, so I'm not going to speak about it in length. But my first was my experience when I was studying in yeshiva and start my first opportunity to have some income. But in general, I think my journey through Mishpacha over the years was a huge opportunity to really be with the interface with the opportunities and challenges in the Haredi society. By the way, Mishpacha by its own became a challenge, because over the years, the fact that there is an independent publication who is have the ambitious or aiming to address social issues, that became our brand brand name, Mishpacha became the vehicle to address in a very sincere way, in a very sensitive way, but those issues. So that's, I think, brought us for understanding that we have a role in the society. We have a great vehicle to first bring this conversation to the public discourse, and became the platform to address these issues, mainly by providing a platform for the community to have this discussion. So I think that's the journey that we did over the years in Mishpacha. And I think in 2012 was the first time that we tried, over the years we dealt with many issues like kids at risk and divorce and mental health and many other, and kids abuse by Mishpacha, which was, though in the early years was very unaccepted in the Haredi world.
It was trailblazing.
Yeah. But in 2010, I think that was the year, and by the way, the date was part of the problem. In 2010, we at Mishpacha felt that we have to address the issue of the economy challenges of the Haredi society in Israel, challenges, opportunities. We felt this is going to be the core debate and the core a fight between the different sectors in Israel, and we devoted a special supplement to address this issue.
In Hebrew or also in English?
In Hebrew. There was the English.
Because this is really just for the Israeli.
Yeah, that was the Israeli. Yeah. We called this supplement, it was Sukkot 2010, and we called it Chareidim 2010. And we really did a very wide review about this issue, including surveys to bring some data. That was the first time that we dealt with data. What areas, what are the challenges, what exists, successful models. We had a panel with the Bank of Israel, with Stanley Fisher, to speak with the key economists about the way that they're seeing the challenges and opportunities. And that was because we felt that we have to have a serious conversation about this issue. We owe it not just to ourselves, also to even to advocate the Haredi society, because we felt that there is a misperception about the Haredi society, and many of the obstacles of Haredim, that they are not maximizing their economic potential, have to do not with Haredi attitude, have to do with the way that the Israeli structure is working with the Israeli government. The best example is the issue of Charedim army and working. I don't know how many people are aware, but Israel is the only state in the world that as long as you didn't serve in the army, you are not allowed to go to work. So over the past 75 years, everybody who decided that he wants to go to yeshiva and he wants to go to a kollel, he couldn't have any option to get vocational training, education, academic for sure, and to have any income as long as he didn't go to the army. And that was one of the things that over the years when I looked at this, and that was my personal experience, when I learned in Hebron Yeshiva, I got married and I decided I want to continue to learn in Yeshiva. That was my passion. It's still my passion, learning in Torah. But my specific passion was to stay in Hebron. The problem was in Hebron, by Shita, by the system, they are not encouraging the boys to stay in yeshiva. The yeshiva is for the bochrim. You want to continue to learn, go find a kollel or go take some rabbinical position. So I came to the manager, Rabbi Yitzchok Hebron. He was a very close friend of my father. And as I said, our family was very connected to the yeshiva. I said, I want to stay in yeshiva. I said, you can stay, but we don't have any kollel. The only thing I can give you is I can register you in the kollel and you will get the few hundred shekels that the government is giving, but this is not. But he said, but why do you need us? Go to your father. He supports so many Torah and kollel even yeshivas. I said, no, I want to be independent. I don't want to rely on my father. And so he said, okay, you can stay, and very soon after an opportunity came, my brother came to me. It was a new publication called Mishpacha. It started as a monthly, like 10 times a year, a small publication, glossy, with pictures, magazine, and they were looking for a distributor. So my brother started to work for them for 2 months. He felt it's not a business, something that comes once every few weeks for 1-2 days of work. It's not really business. And he asked me, are you interested to have some side job? And I said, yes, I'll be more than happy to get the job. I had the old Susita. I don't know how many of the listeners are familiar with this car, but that was the only car brand that was in Israel, a very, very old-fashioned car. And I was very happy, and I started to, beside my learning in the Kollel, to have a side job that once a month for a day and a half, 2 days, I was hard working to carry the magazines from the printer, to go to the stores, to distribute them. And I earned this time, it took me altogether like 3 days a month, meaning an intensive day and a half, and then over noontime, a weekend, a Friday to go to make collection, to take returns from the stores. And I was earning twice as much as Iyun Gilad got for full monthly scholarship in a Kollel. But then was a problem. When I wanted to get paid, I realized that it's illegal. So I came to the owner of the publication, said, okay, I want to get paid officially. And he said, I can't pay you because it's illegal. You didn't go to the army. I said, what do you mean it's illegal? But I'm working, I want to report, I want to pay taxes. So it's illegal. So the only way I could get paid was by registering under my wife's name. And this is my first experience as a Haredi who lives in Israel, who wants, by the way, to fulfill the real value of Torah, that you're not relying on tzedakah, you're not relying on anything that ideally Rambam that people like to quote. And I find out that it's illegal. And this is one of the very strong experience that I carried with me over the years, to see that there is such a big gap between the lifestyle and the way of life of the Haredi society and the way that the government and the system is treating them. Some of this is because of ignorance, misunderstanding of the Haredi society, and some of them, unfortunately, is because of some kind of an agenda. So I believe that the so-called policy that was, say, okay, as long as you are not going to the army, you can't go to work, or you can't be, or at least you can't work officially, meaning to be paid on the books, was maybe the idea was maybe this way more people will decide that they have to go to the army because people wants to to make a living. And then after, I remember 20 more years ago, when the Tal committee was, I think 20-something years ago, I came to give a testimony in the hearing. I came to the conversation and I said, we have two big challenges with the Haredi society in Israel. One is serving in the army, and especially speaking those days, we understand how sensitive and complicated is this issue. But this is one issue that we have to see what can be done in this area. And the second is the issue of economy and employment. But who is the idiot to put the two of them together? Each of them is a challenge, because a community that we stop a community that want to encourage people to spend more time in learning and not to be in the run, the capitalist run, and you want to encourage them maybe to go to work. So how can you create this kind of barrier? So back to this supplement, that was one of the issues that we tried through the publication to address, to see what are the obstacles, what stops a Haredi man or Haredi woman to maximize their potential. And we find out that there is so many regulations and so many problems. Another example is academia. At least in many areas, but at least in the public service in Israel, the public sector, in government office, civil service, you can't get a job if you don't have an academic degree. Okay, I understand that if you want to be an accountant, you want to be, a legal advisor, you want to be an engineer, you need to have an academic degree. But if you want to have, to work in an office and to be coordinator, to be a project manager, why do you have to have an academic degree? And why it's relevant? It's not even relevant what kind of academic degree, but this is the way in Israel. So now if a Haredi man or even a Haredi woman wants to participate and to get a job and to be able to really contribute something that it's not just in the Haredi world, much broader, so they first have to go to academia. But most of the Haredim are not comfortable to go, especially, again, when the Israeli liberal trend is to fight against separate gender colleges. And in America, you can go to Torah college, and nobody is bothering you. You can go to a women program, you can go to a men program. In Israel, they used to have some programs that was gender separated, and over the years was many appeals to the Supreme Court and the Israeli High Council for Education that was trying again and again to limit it. So what happened is that over the years, there is so many areas that wrong policy that I felt that hurting the Haredi society, but at the end of the day, hurting the state of Israel, because it's a lose-lose situation. It's not just... And this is where I feel this journey, and I think after this supplement, by the way, the reaction to this supplement was that we got a big flag from the Haredi establishment. So you Chareidim are joining our enemies because you dare to speak about economy. So you're talking about economy, meaning that you are against Torah learning. So Chas v'Chalila, the introduction to the supplement was an article by Rav Menachem Cohen, the head of the Rabbinical Board, talking about how important is the value of Torah in our society, and making very clear that this is not to say, how can we convince Chareidi Yungelai to go to work? How can we help Chareidim to maximize their potential to make a living? How can we allow, by the way, a Yungelai who wants to sit and learn and to be able at the same time, without going to the army, to be able to have, evening hours, a part-time job that can make an income? So, and it was accepted in a very bad way. Some of them because people did a real campaign to look at Mishpacha as revolutionary, wants to change the world. And I think that was where I felt that to make a supplement, to write a column in Mishpacha, it's not enough. If you really want to deal with policy, have to be done much more deeply, systematically, strategically. And also we have to put the magazine aside. The magazine is a magazine. The magazine should deal with issues that the crowd, the readership feel comfortable. But we should provide and build a think tank, that was the decision, that will become this center of knowledge and long-term planning for Haredi society, that our goal is not to help the government or to help the Israeli economy. The main goal is to help our own society by understanding where are the obstacles and what kind of policy can make a difference that we will benefit, the Torah will benefit, our education system will benefit, and the state of Israel will benefit, with the main goal that this way we can really create a partnership between our society to the rest of the Israeli society, and enabling the voice of the Torah world to become part of the Jewish conversation.
What's fascinating is that instead of backing down amidst the opposition, you doubled down by launching this new apparatus, this new organization, Haredi Institute of Public Affairs. But Ari, I just have to correct you. Please.
But at the same time, we did our own Cheshbon HaNefesh. It was like a huge campaign over a year and a half.
And it was organized? It was like...
organized by Yated Ne'eman those days.
Oh, okay.
It was our big competitor, with letters from Rabbonim and letters from seminary principals and letters from... It was an amazing campaign against Mishpacha.
I would have written you a letter in support. That you never asked, Eli.
And at some point, we had even some percentage of our subscription that they canceled. So the Rabbonim were siding against you, and I entered to Reb Chaim Kanievsky to speak about it, and Reb Nissim Karelitz, and all the Gedolim that were involved. It was always amazing, by the way, to see the difference between how you're organizing a campaign and when you have the opportunity to speak. People are surprised to see, this is what they did. They used my letter to
undermine
you. It doesn't make sense. But the Cheshbon Nefesh that we did, and that's why it's not, okay, I decided if you're attacking us, so I'll do more. If you're attacking us, meaning that we missed some point, meaning I'm not looking about the cynical, bad people who did the campaign. We know who are the people, we know what was their motivation. But the fact that many people looked at us and say, no, it's a problem. And by the time that Lapid is attacking us, and there is so many attacks against our system, it was perceived in a way that people looked at us and say, you weren't sensitive enough to our values. We decided that a conversation that we can have for the public on the magazine should be one conversation, and creating or planning a long-term policy is different than having conversation. Meaning, we have to encourage the identity of the society and make sure that by the time that they're attacked by the system and by politicians and by so many liberal movements, so our role is first to be and hug our society and make sure that they will feel safe and comfortable, but not to give up the real need to continue to address the issue. So we did two ways of activity. One, we took a step back in terms of, okay, the magazine is not the right platform to deal with these sensitive issues, but we have to find a professional way to deal with these issues, and for sure, through consulting with big Talmidei Chachomim, through having serious people who understand the word, but not necessarily it's a conversation for the publication.
Fair enough. So I want to understand how you were able to move into a space where you were dealing with high-level demography and statistics and all of these kinds of things. Who were you able to bring in? And then I want to start to drill down a little bit into some of the facts and the nitty-gritty around your work and the surveys and such that you've done.
So as I said, always the heritage I got, my family mission was really to deal with, to work for Klal Yisrael, to deal for the Klal. And I felt this is also my mission in Mishpacha in general. Mishpacha became a vehicle for Klal Yisrael. And I think over the years we contribute so much to so many areas of chizuk and chinuch and in so many areas. But I felt when I started our foundation that we have to think what's the best strategy to deal with this issue. Meaning the first thing that came in mind wasn't that we have to open a think tank. At the beginning I said, okay, maybe we should as a foundation to try to find some special initiatives who have
programs and
to help them, to give some seed money, to support them, in chinuch, in employment, in other areas. And it took me like a year to do the strategic thinking, and then we came to the conclusion that the best impact will be if we will create a way that we can change the way that the government is treating the Haredi society. And I think today I didn't change my vision. After 10 years, I am still convinced that the best way to create new opportunities is the first by convincing the government to work in a different way. Because you can try whatever you can do. At the end of the day, the deepest pockets, but also the deep impact has the government. So no matter what philanthropy will work, for sure, no matter what tzedakah will work, if you want to deal in a scale that you're dealing with 1.2, 1.3 million people, so if you want to really deal in the macro scale, the key is to educate the government. I'm not talking about the political representatives. I'm talking about the professionals. In the government, to help them to understand the Haredi society, to understand and to leave aside the political debate and narratives and etc., to come in a professional way to them, A, to provide them the right knowledge, because they're clueless. They're clueless about the Haredi society. B, to come without an agenda, because when we entered to this field was already few players like IDI and some others, and funded by some liberal secular foundations, that they also was trying to so-called solve the Haredi problem.
Like I said before, you have to come from the inside in order to have that credibility, both a deep understanding of the community you're representing and also the credibility of the community, the trust of the community.
And that's for sure the two elements. But the most important one was that this organization was set up not to support and encourage the flourishing of the Torah world, was to deal with the Haredi problem. There is a problem, it's a Haredi problem. I once met with a delegation from the New York Federation, which I'm very close with, working with them, really.
Eric Goldstein, I guess.
Eric Goldstein. But it wasn't Eric, it was some committee there. And they told me that they have a committee who is dealing with the Haredi society. And I said, okay, what's the name of your committee? And said, this is a committee who deals with marginalized societies. And I said, who are the marginalized societies? And they say, Arabs, Ethiopians.
Palestinians.
No, Arabs, Ethiopians, Charedim. I said, are you serious? Marginalized society? And then I remember one of them asked me, but tell me, Eli, I understand you're open-minded and I see the way you're operating, but do you really believe that you can live with the community who is educating people for ignorance? And I said, ignorance? You're calling Haredi kids, Haredi schools ignorance? They are so well educated and so well. So you can debate whether they have enough mathematics and English, they don't have, but to call them ignorant. So the attitude about Chareidim was to look at them instead. We're living in the Haredi society, and we see an amazing society with so much chesed and Torah and entrepreneurs and people from outside looking at Chareidim as a nebby, schnorrers, poor, ignorance. So I was so bothered to see, so the organizations or the think tank that work in the field, Taub Center and IDI, all of them came with an agenda. How can we re-educate the Chareidim? How can we take them down from the trees? The primitive. And we said, we're coming with a different approach. We're coming with a big love and appreciation and with a very deep believe that the future of the Jewish people is based on the people who are keeping Torah mitzvot, whether they are Charedim or they are from Toradic people from the National Zionists or this is the key for the future of the Jewish people. So how can you look at them and say, you are for sure there is challenges, for sure there is special needs that needs to be addressed in the Haredi society. So when I established was a sur mera, and a set of the sur mera was to make all the others irrelevant. Because we have much better understanding, we have much better knowledge, we have much better access to the society. But B, because we're coming with all of our heart, just with the admiration of the society, with doing whatever we can do to make sure that we can preserve this miracle of Torah and this miracle of Chesed and this miracle that in our generation to still see people who are devoted to Torah and Kovea Itim La Torah and sitting and learning in Jung Light. This is a miracle. And our job was just to be the mediator, to translate the unique value of the Torah society to the decision makers, to say, okay, don't come with any agenda. You want to maximize, you want to develop the economy potential, we're here to help you. You want to undermine our values, we're the first one to say, no, it's not going to work.
So you brought in statisticians and people like this to help you? Obviously, you didn't have this expertise yourself, right?
By the way, you're right. So the first step was that I decided, I'm not expert in research and policy, so we collaborate with an institute that we appreciate called Machon Yerushalayim. Was a professor, he passed away, forgot his name, maybe I'll recall and I'll give it to you. כמעט נמצא לי, תכף נזכר. And we decided, you can delete it unless... Amir Amgonen. So we collaborate with the Machon Yerushalayim. It was like a serious institute in Yerushalayim that they have a department to deal with Chareidim. And we felt from all the think tanks, they are more coming with relatively without an agenda. Was a great guy, Professor Amir Amgonen, that was the head of this. And we opened together. It was like a partnership, a joint venture between our foundation and Machon Yerushalayim, a center for Haredi research. I said they understand in research, we understand in Haredim, we are also can bring some of the funding, and that was the first step. But it took me in a very short time to realize that it's not enough. To have experts, but if it's not coming from within the Haredi society, so again they always have to make sure that they are satisfying some agendas in the academia. And so, no, I'm coming with clean hands, with open hearts to deal. So after less than a year, we decided that we have to open our own institute, and we brought top experts, economists, data analysts.
And Chareidim themselves are just people working?
Chareidim and non-Chareidim, but we created a Haredi environment and a Haredi team. By the way, the key of our work was that on one hand, we want to have the top experts in each area, public policy, sociology, data analysts, and etc. But every project we need also to have a Haredi fellow working with. So could be that the research or the numbers are done by experts, but the field understanding and comes with the Haredi. So we create a new model of creating. Somebody asked me, so what's the model of your thinking? I said, I don't know. I tell you what I'm doing. You tell me what's the model. The model was that the only way that we can make something, and by the way, it's very symbolic. It should be a real partnership between non-Haredi experts, some of them are Chareidim, but some non-Haredi experts, and Haredi experts working shoulder to shoulder together and coming to a conclusion, or coming to recommendations that each side can live with it. So meaning, if we came with a recommendation and the secular experts say, Eli, I feel that it's not, either it's not professional or it's not fair, you're trying to, okay, and vice versa. If you're coming with something, okay, we have to do something in education, and the Haredi fellow said, okay, but this is you're crossing the board, you're crossing the line. So that was really an amazing experiment of working together, Charedim and non-Charedim. And over the years, so the goal was to become the address for the Israeli government. 3 years ago, we won a big, I think it's called bet, Michraz.
An award?
No. Michraz is when the government or company...
An appointment or...
No. When the government wants to buy a service and they're giving...
a contract.
Okay, but it's not a contract.
Contracting. It's called government contract. Outsourcing, contract.
No, but it's not a specific Michraz tender.
And it's also a contract.
Okay.
It's like a...
No, a contract is a specific one. The tender was that, okay. So 3 years ago, we joined a big tender of the Prime Minister office to provide service for the Israeli offices, all the ministry offices, and we won the tender. So today we became an official consulting firm for the government, like Deloitte and McKinsey and Task and others. So we were recognized as a top expert, and we became the top expert. By the way, our goal to take out from the game all the other players, more or less success. We left almost the only one. There is very small activity still by the IDI, but we became this center.
The address.
The address.
And do the politicians utilize your services when they want to formulate policy proposals, or when they want to, like the Haredi politicians, when they want to advance certain agenda items? Do they see you as allies that they can draw information from? Or in some ways, might you be sometimes working even against, kind of if they have a particular agenda and it's not always going to be, simpatico?
No, it's a good question. So at the beginning, I think that the Haredi politicians looked at us very suspicious. So what's your agenda? What you're trying to do? It's a competition with us. You're trying to try maybe to promote you some agenda. So at the beginning, I think they looked at us, and our focus was mainly want to work with official government. But I think that 5-6 years ago was the turning point when we dealt with the regulation on the Gemachim. That was a big issue that came to the table of Gafni, was the head of the finance committee. And this is something that went again and again and was trying to push it in the old way of politics, to push it again and again. But at some point, the FATCA, the American regulation, was putting a pressure on Israel that you have to do regulation in terms of money laundering of this area. It's a huge finance...
Private loan societies.
And you have to do something. And this is where we were already ready. We have top experts at the Machon. We put together a steering committee of the leaders of the key Gemachim in Israel, Cooperman, Belz, Ger, Avrom Slonim, and others, to study the field together with them. And we were lucky that the head of the program was a professor from Tel Aviv University that was expert in law and taxes. And we did like a deep research and negotiation and discussion with the regulators in Israel, the Justice Ministry and some others. And at the end of the day, when the law passed, when Gafni passed the law, that was totally based on the way that we wrote the law. So I think that was, usually politicians doesn't like to use other people. They know better than you what they need to do. And I think also to educate them that we are giving them an opportunity. We are not serving them, meaning they are dealing in some field and the rule of the games are some kind of the rule of the games. But over the years, they start to learn and appreciate that, we are a different voice than the non-Haredi organizations that used to come and come with data. And remember that Maklev told us many years ago that finally we have someone that we can invite for a Knesset committee and can really bring us an objective data. So yes, over the years, we start to work more and more closely with them, but we are always trying to not to be affiliated. Meaning, if I want to work with the Minister of Finance, I don't want to be perceived as someone enough that we call the Haredi Institute, and it's run by Chareidim, so already there is the bias. You are Chareidim, so you're trying to protect Chareidim. I'm not trying to protect anybody. We're working in a very professional way, but I think that we buy this trust over the years, and today everybody, Maklev, that's now running a big office through the Prime Minister office, is called הרשות לפיתוח כלכלי חברתי, the authority for economy and social development, and he needs data and he needs policy, so he's inviting by us data and inviting by us research. But I won't say that this is the main goal. The main goal is really to become and to continue to be the professional address, whether you're Haredi, you're non-Haredi. If you really want to find good ways to maximize the potential of the Haredi society, the potential contribution for the Israeli economy, we are the best address to go. And this is where we're trying to be, being okay with everybody, but still working with the independent agenda.
Good. So I just want to drill down. There's so many issues we could get into, and the demographics and, and attitudes and perspectives. I want to take one for today's purpose and really understand deeply how this plays out, not just in the Haredi society at large, but in the specific subsectors, because as we know, the Haredi society is not one big monolith. We have all kinds of subgroups. If I ask you the question, do Charedim see themselves as Israeli or as part of the state, as part of the nation state? How do you answer that? And again, it may be many different answers depending on who we're talking about, which part of the community or the broader society we're talking about. But what does the research today demonstrate about that question in a deep way?
It's a great question, and I think it's became even more relevant after the Simchat Torah, the October 7 massacre. So we did a big survey because we also were curious to see. We felt that there is a change in the attitude. There is a change, and we were really surprised to see the rates of the positive answer that we got. For instance, I don't remember exactly the exact numbers. Maybe I'll send it to you.
We can link that in the show notes, absolutely.
Yeah, and you can add it. But I think over 73% of the Chareidim, and it was a very thorough and deep research. It wasn't done by internet. It was done by phone with representative of all kind of Chareidim from all different groups.
I imagine internet surveys would automatically completely...
Yeah, usually doing internet, so you're getting the people who are already in internet and the people in internet who are responding to this kind of surveys. Yeah. So that was really a very expensive and thorough research, but the answers were amazing. Over 73%, I think, say we see ourselves part of the Israeli story. And we were very careful about how to... The language. What exactly you're asking.
But you didn't say Jewish story. You said Israeli story.
The Israeli story, meaning the Israeli society. Over 80% say we care about the way that we're perceived by the outside society, okay? Which means that we feel connected. We care about, we don't feel by the way that we are attacked and we have all... No, we feel that we want... כן. מה צריך לעשות בסוף?
לקפוץ על הרווח
וזהו? ואיך אני אקח?
צריך את זה היום?
לא, היום ממש לא...
מחר בבוקר?
זה בסדר. יש לך את ה... יש לי את ה...
כן, נדבר.
עכשיו אני גם מתקשר.
כן, אנחנו עוד מעט מסיימים. אחרי ה...
אז תשלח לי הודעה שסיימתם ועצרתם.
לא.
אבל אני צריך את ה...
המספר,
כן.
0533.
אחר כך אני... אוסיף את זה... תשים את זה.
אני פנחס כהן. אוקיי, פנחס כהן.
מעולה. בסדר, אוקיי, יאי.
תודה רבה.
יאללה, נמשיך ונסיים, יאללה.
זה היה באמצע המשפט?
זהו.
כן, אני אחזור חזרה ואחרי זה הוא יערוך אותו. And so over 80% said that they really care about the way that they are perceived by the rest of the Israeli society, which was really amazing for us to see, because that means that they feel connected. If you care about it, first mean that you are connected, and B, we felt that some of the barriers, people, when you feel attacked, so he said, no, I don't care, I don't, and we felt that people feel more open to be honest and to speak about it. And in many other years, in the willingness to contribute to the security of Israel, in the willingness, and by the way, people in high percentage said, we want to be part of it. We saw even an increase of people who said, we really want even to serve in the army.
In Shlav Bet and things like this.
Yeah, mamash. I think that before the war, 24% of the people say that they think that they would like to serve. And after the war, 29%, which is not 5% more, it's 20% more, because 20% more is 29. Right. So we saw in every area, we saw the trend that we feel in the air.
And is this including Hasidim? This is including the most?
Hasidim, Kanoim, young, elderly, men, women. And I think in general what you can learn from it, that the moment of the big catastrophe of Simchat Torah made a change in the Haredi, in the Israeli society in general. And I think it's a two-side movement. The fact that the Chareidim are more comfortable even to speak with appreciation to the people in the army, without fearing that if I'm saying good words about those people who are sacrificing their lives, and you see an amazing Kiddush Hashem, and you see an amazing Mesirus Nefesh, that doesn't mean that I'm undermining anything in the Torah learning and yeshiva, and we can still, I just had a meeting this week, and I said, I feel so much of appreciation, and even some hard moments about when you see so many people are sacrificing their lives and we are not part of it, and we wish, can we be more part of it? But at the same time, the decision that my son is learning in Hebron Yeshiva didn't change even after October 7, after Simchat Torah. Meaning, to live with the capacity to live with the ability to appreciate some good thing that's happening by the rest of the Israeli society in general, by the Zionist society. You see real Talmidei Chachomim, real Yirei Shomayim, Erlach people. It's unbelievable to see it, and it was even reflected in Mishpacha in the past few months, because it's really role models to see fathers who lost their kids, widows who lost their husbands, and to see the Emunah and you see the Kiddush Hashem without a fear that if you are saying, yes, they are doing great things, means, so we are not. And in this tension, I think it's definitely very challenging, but I think that the voice and the fact that Charedim feel more comfortable was because not just the Charedim felt comfortable to speak warmly about the Mesirus Nefesh of the soldiers and their families, also the soldiers and the many Israelis start to discover the Jewish identity and speak in such a warm appreciation about the Haredi society and the Torah and the Mesirus Nefesh and the Chesed, which this is a real beginning of a real partnership. And the only way that we can have a conversation, and there is so much that Haredim can do maybe better in the area of partnership and taking achrayus and being responsible, is just by creating conversation that comes with respect, and even before the with understanding that there is core values that we will never give up. Once you appreciate our values and you understand why we are moiser nefesh for Torah, why even in hard times like the world, we still feel that we have to make sure that even this movement and even this in a strong situation won't hurt Khalila the Torah values. Once you're ready to have this conversation, then we can speak about how can we create a better partnership. And there is so many opportunities for a better partnership in both ways. How we, the Torah world, can contribute to the Jewish identity with so many people who are desperate to hear more about Torah. Can we move from our comfort zone and to deal with our own job and to try to be face out with a mission of Klal Yisrael and to see we have so much to offer. we have so much to bring, not just to bring people, please be with us. No, be with you. I'm here with you. You see, there is an amazing initiative by the Karliner Hasidim, led by the Rebbe.
Really? I'm not familiar.
Unbelievable. There is, they created a huge organization that almost all the families in Karlin are volunteering and supporting soldiers, families. Every Friday, there is 1,500 Haredi women who are Haredi Hasidic women from Karlin baking chales and cakes and writing letters for the wives of the people who are in the reserve. Unbelievable to see the Mesiras Nefesh, and the Rebbe was very strong about saying, this is our role. We have to bring a real partnership. We have to bring whatever we can do to show that we appreciate and we care, and the Rebbe is going to visit people in the hospitals and so much. And it's not just by them. There is another women organization called the Chayot Mibarzel, Iron Sisters, who also brought over 2,000 Haredi women to support the wives of Haredi with the soldiers. They need a babysitter, there is someone to help them with the kids. So we are one society, and this is the nature of our society. But because over the years was such a tension between the Charedim and the non-Charedim, so people were afraid, if I'm supporting a wife of a soldier, so why I'm not going to the army? I'm not going to the army because ABC, or maybe because right now the conditions are not really ready yet for a real participation, but to ignore what they need, to see how can we really support and help. And I think this is really a big change that I see in the Haredi society. And I'm very optimistic. I just want to share with you just one story. I was in a meeting 2 weeks ago with the very left-wing leaders. But I was saying left-wing is really left-wing from the...
Kaplanistim.
Some of them were Kaplanistim, some of them were some atheists. And one of the ladies, I don't want to mention her name, but she's a very famous professor. She was a president of one of the big universities here. And they asked me, it was like an open conversation. We dealt with questions of long-term policy, but the conversation was like to know each other. And each of us were asked, what's your take from October 7th? What's your take from October 7th? And each of them said what they learned. And I said, October 7th made me to be a little bit more optimistic. I said, optimistic? What made you to be optimistic with the war and the horrible situation that we are? And I said, listen, in the past year, I really lost sleep to see what's going on here. We were really about very close to a real civil war, and I'm not literally civil war.
I wrote a piece about it in Mishpacha in English myself, a story that happened to me. I saw this with my eyes.
But I met with the people. I have a very close friend in the leaders of the protest, in the high-tech protest in Achim Laneshek, and I heard people talking. I spent Shabbos in Caesarea to meet with 130 leaders of the protest because they invited me to speak to them and to bring the Haredi voice. So I left my family. I went to hotel in
Into
Caesarea.
the lion's den.
Mamash. And I felt it's so important to be with them and to speak. And so באמת, I'm talking, I really felt that we are in a situation that it was a real threat on the future of our existence in Israel. I'm not exaggerating. It was really, and it could end in two ways. Either a civil war, with a real civil war, because we are here to fight and to do whatever we can do, or, which I'm not sure if it's not worse, that this segment of society that feel that they have no future in Israel, because for whatever reason they feel, right or wrong, but they really felt, and you can't argue with feelings.
I've heard it.
You can't argue with people with tears in their eyes. They say, oh, you idiots, you're manipulated by the media. No, talk about serious people. Could be that they were affected by the media, could be they weren't affected, but you can't argue with their feeling, and people felt that they have no future.
Yep.
So once I felt if they will get to a point that they will feel that we have no future, easily they will leave Israel.
Yep.
And I'm not concerned about the future of Israel if we will lose some of the people from the high-tech and the economy. I believe in a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and that wasn't my fear. But are we ready to lose hundreds of thousands of Jewish people that we know that the next generation, they're not with us anymore? Do we have any responsibility to make sure that even if we disagree with these people, and I totally disagree with them, but we are here to listen to their pain, to do whatever we can do to try to accommodate it, to try to see, okay, let's see what your concerns and how can we really... So I said that was my fear. And I did whatever I can do. I was involved in different kind of conversation and run tables and plannings, whatever. But I felt that it's really hard. I said, when October 7th came, finally, what came back to the conversation was our Jewish identity. And the achdus that you saw is that people that were so tiered and people that were even afraid to mention that part of their identity is to be Jewish. And I'm talking again about a table with the very, very left wing. I said, I felt, and by the way, not just in Israel, the conversation, our identity, the Judaism came to the front of our identity and existence. It's a miracle. And finally, people that were so far start to discover their Jewish identity and their Jewish. That was amazing. The lady that was with me at the table, very anti-Haredi, very anti-religious. She said, just recently, I apologize. She said to me, I don't know why she apologized to me. Just recently, I signed a letter, a petition that the train should run on Shabbos. Okay, why? You want a train to run on Shabbos? Run on Shabbos. Why? It's not my chilul Shabbos. And she said, I want to share with you. Once I mentioned this, the entire table changed. And I'm talking about leaders, top people from the left wing. And she said, I wrote a will that after my death, I want my body to be burned and the ash to be taken.
Scattered her.
When I saw the Mesirut Nefesh of the people from Zaka, what Mesirut Nefesh they are doing to bring Jewish bodies to Kever Israel, I try to rethink my will. And for me, that's an example about how powerful it is. Once we, the Torah Society, are ready to bring our, not to debate, not to fight, not to show that we are better than you, we have responsibility. We have responsibility to B'Kadesh Shem Shomayim, and once we are ready to bring it to the table, the hearts are open. Then another lady that was, again, a top leader in one of the left-wing parties in Israel. And she said, and it turned the whole conversation at the table. She said, till October 7th, when I was asked, what's my identity? She said, I will say I am an Arabic Israeli. I said, why Arabic? Because her family comes from Iraq. So she felt, this is my identity. I have an Arab roots, Arab culture, Arab food, whatever. And I'm an Israeli. And she said, I have to admit, you're right, when you are talking about that the Jewish identity came to our awareness. She said, if I'm asked today, I would say I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I'm Jewish. And the last story I want to tell you in this regard was the same table. We had a game that each of us should ask a question, something that he curious to hear about one of the people at the table. So one of the people at the table was a very famous and strong activist in the legal area. He's a big lawyer, works in one of the biggest institutes in Israel, running for...
Kamuvan Neged.
Running campaigns about making the institution in Israel, whatever. And I just wrote in a small note, I asked the question for you. Again, I don't want to mention names. And I said, just want to ask you, are your kids are living in Israel? And do you think that your grandkids will live in Israel? That was the only question. He picked up the paper, the note, and he said, wow, tough question. A tough guy, a tough question. And he said, I have two kids, a boy and a girl. My son used to live 12 years in the States. He was dating for many years with a non-Jewish, very, from a very wealthy family from the, Park Avenue, I think is a non-Jewish girl. And just a week before the COVID, he was in a trip in, in the East somewhere. And I was able to bring him back to Israel because he wanted to go back to America, and I convinced him to come to Israel. And so right now he's in Israel, and his daughter, that she's an artist, she's a photographer. She spent the last 6 years in London, and she was planning to live there. She said right now both of them are in Israel. I hope that they will continue to stay here. And he said, and you're asking about my grandkids. And he started to have tears in his eyes. And he said, wow, you touch a very, very sensitive question. And by the way, I knew why I'm asking, because when I was dealing with people over the time of the protest, after a few conversations that I had with people to try to figure out what made them, what take them out of their mind, what made them to be so, hundreds of thousands of people went to protest every week because of some change. Let's say you agree, you disagree, and then I discovered that the issue wasn't the judicial reform. The issue was the real question about their identity, the future of Israel, the future of the Jewish state.
Democratia.
But that democratia. And all of them, when I asked them the question, either their kids are already not living in Israel, or they believe that their kids won't live in Israel. And why they were so upset? Because they were trying to find whom to blame. They're not living in Israel because the Chareidim are making Israel to become Iran, because the right wing. But when I was trying to figure out what's really it bothers them, what really is the issue wasn't any technical reform. It was really much deeper question. And I'm not saying that it's not. I'm saying the opposite. It's super, super serious issue. But took me a while, few weeks of conversation with people to discover that if you really want to have the real conversation should be what really bothers you. Leave aside the judicial reform. Let's say that we'll put together top expert, which, by the way, happened together with Kohelet and the IDI, and very, very easily they got to 80%, 85% agreement of the changes that needs to be done. So what made people to cry? What made people to say, I lost my brother in Yom Kippurim war, but now I don't really believe that I understand why he sacrificed his life. I said, what's going on with you? And I find out that this is a real issue. So when he spoke about his grandkids, and he said, yeah, that's really a sad point. And he said, I'm saying to my kids, sometimes in a wedding, so you're saying, Dad is looking for you from heaven. I want in your wedding not to look at you from heaven. He's already 70 years old. His son is 35. His daughter is 32. And he said, I wish that my kids will marry with Israelis. He didn't say Jewish. With people from the same culture. And you see, Ari, how hard it is for these people to be able to bring the Nekuda Yehudi, the Jewish point, the Jewish soul to the conversation. And I really feel this is a moment that we, the Haredi society, have such a Haredi and non-Haredi, the Torah society, have to join forces and to welcome our brothers. And again, not to fight and not to try to get some more benefits. No, we are here. We are Shevet Levi. We are here to serve. My vision about the Haredi society, we should be a Shevet Levi. And the only right that we have to ask the community to support our Torah learning, if we understand that this is not for supporting ourselves, our Torah career, our Olam Haba, is because we are serving the community. There is a famous Rashi by Yisachar and Zvulun. So Rashi said, "Vayar menucho kitoiv ve'et haaretz kinoemo vayet shichmo lisboel." So Rashi brings that Yisachar took the responsibility with Bnei Yisachar yoide bino lo itim, meaning I am supporting your Torah because your Torah is not just for yourself; it's for the nation. And I think this is what I wish to see much more awareness in our society. If we, the Charedim, will understand what's an important role we have, how much we can offer to the rest of the people, how much we can really bring our values and our Torah and to make a deep kiruv. Kiruv is not to make other people to keep Shabbos. Kiruv is to show that you care about them. Kiruv is to show...
Kiruv levavos.
Kiruv levavos. Kiruv is to make sure that you know that there is thousands of women that their husbands are in the army and they are losing sleep every night and you are there with them to care with them. Yes, our son, we are sleeping well at night. But if we will show that, yes, but we daven for you, we're not just daven, we're here for you. You need a babysitter, we're here for your babysitter. You need a fresh cake, we'll bring a fresh cake. I think this is a beginning of creating a new partnership between the Haredi society and the non-Haredi.
Let us hope that this vision, this optimistic vision that you have amidst a very, very difficult time comes to fruition. Eli Paley, the founder and director of the Haredi Institute for Public Affairs and a real expert and passionate advocate for critical change and critical solutions in a often too fractured society. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.